According to Schroders, it's a 2026 U.S. retirement survey. What it says is that Americans participating in workplace retirement plans think that they're going to need about $1.2 million to retire comfortably. But it's interesting that on the same survey, 33% of these people say that their credit card debt is actually higher than their retirement savings.
That's terrifying.
How do you get out of that? Thanks again for joining us here on America's Wealth Management Show, brought to you by Modern Wealth Management. Today, Chris Rett, certified financial planner, and I will look at what it really takes to protect your nest egg before you hit age 50.
If you've done the basics of saving, that's great. If you don't fix specific structural items before 50, like market risk and shifting tax laws, you're leaving your retirement exposed. Here at Modern Wealth Management, our goal is to show you how a team builds a connected plan to manage those exact risks in areas such as estate planning, tax planning, risk management, and investment management.
Get a sense of how confident you feel on your own retirement by receiving your Modern Confidence Score today. Visit yourconfidencescore.com. Or if you'd like to speak with a member of our team, Modern Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor. Now let's see what's on today's agenda. All right, Chris Rett, certified financial planner. Thanks again for joining me here on America's Wealth Management Show.
Thanks for having me, Dean.
So Chris, we're going to talk about some milestones that people need to be thinking about before they turn age 50. But there's some really alarming statistics out there. And I think you and I, because we're in the industry, we forget what people do and don't know.
Sure.
And I think that there's a lot more that they don't know than what we realize.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're going to talk about taxes, risk management, investing, and where should you be investing and how should you be investing.
Yeah.
And we always want to make sure that people are able to kind of interact with us, ask us questions. So we'd love to hear from you in the comments on YouTube or Spotify, or you can email us. And the email address is questions@modwm.com. That's questions@modwm.com. So, Chris, milestone number one, building a retirement savings foundation. And so from your perspective as a certified financial planner, what's that all about?
Yeah. So, Dean, I think what we're trying to convey here is there's a lot of calculators online that suggest, different levers that you can pull to get to a magic number at retirement, right? And it calculates your contribution amounts, it calculates rate of return, and it calculates how long you plan on investing. And so what we're getting here, Dean, is it's worth investigating if you haven't already, the math. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, is retirement is nothing more than a math equation to say what number do you physically need at retirement versus what are you spending versus what rates of return you have. That suggests how much you need, and then you backtrack that to age 50, and are you on track? So what we're saying here is that a foundation is going to be, look up the calculators that are online and say, hey, what do I feasibly need at retirement for what my goals are? And then what do I need to get there, right? Do I need to start increasing my contributions? Rates of return, they're never guaranteed, nor can we, base them on, but 100 years of data suggests the S&P 500 or the stock market's returned on average 9 to 10%. So again, you don't want to bank on that, nor can anybody say you guarantee that. And then you look at when are you feasibly going to retire? If you're now entering age 50, is it going to be you're looking to retire at 60, 65, 70? That's really the math behind what we're getting at here.
Well, and Fidelity suggests that a person should have 6 times their annual salary accumulated in savings, whether that be in brokerage accounts or savings accounts or 401ks or IRAs or a combination thereof, that you should have accumulated by 50 6 times your current salary. So if you're making $100,000 at 50, what Fidelity suggests is that you need to have $600,000 saved by 50. Okay?
Yeah.
And now what does that mean? Well, if you got $600,000 saved at 50 and you continue to invest and you continue to do well, the rule of 72 says that at 7.2%, your money's going to double in 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, you might have 1.2 by the time you're 60, but if you're continuing to add to it, maybe you're at 1.5, 1.6. So that's where that kind of foundation comes from. And that's kind of getting to the point of, instead of, maybe if you're younger, instead of saying, gosh, I don't know what I'm going to need by 65, take this shorter view here, Chris, and say, what should I have by age 50 to build that initial foundation?
That's exactly right, Dean. And in addition to that, 50 is one of those interesting ages where, you know, you've got some of the population where maybe kids are starting to go off to college now, and maybe they're, you know, kids are getting off payroll. You're having a little bit more disposable income to save. Well, the tax laws are written for that very reason, to say, hey, if you're feeling behind at age 50, and you mentioned, like you said, Dean, and maybe you're contributing, you can actually start to contribute a little bit more after age 50. So it's worth, hey, if you're feeling behind, reaching out and getting some help to say, hey, what are areas that I can save in? And then what are the additional savings that I can do after age 50?
Yeah. And of course, you get the catch-up provisions after age 50. So after 50, you can add more to your 401k. You can add more to your IRA or your Roth IRA. Now, the question of whether you should save that 6 times your salary in a Roth or a traditional 401k, Roth IRA, traditional IRA, brokerage account, I'm gonna be in favor of the Roth,
sure,
vast majority of the time, because the Roth is going to allow all of the future earnings of whatever you put into those accounts to not only accumulate tax-free, but also to distribute tax-free. So if you had $1.2 million in a Roth versus $1.2 million in a traditional, those are, I mean, yes, it's still $1.2 million, but they're going to spend totally different, because the traditional, you try to take the 1.2 out to spend it, and you're going to lose a third of it to taxes. The Roth, you get the whole thing.
That's exactly right, Dean. You're exactly right. And the thing is that, you know, I'm always in favor, and I agree with you, is I'm always in favor of the option that yields the most options. And that more than likely is going to be the Roth, right? Is there's an unknown that we don't know. And this is, you can be saving, like you said, you can be saving and doing all the right things, get a great market appreciation between 50 and 60. But if it's in the IRA or if it's in a 401k, Uncle Sam is appreciating that as much as you are.
Of course. Of course. All right. So let's go to milestone number 2 here, Chris, and that is eliminate high interest rate debt, especially credit card debt, or better yet, never go into debt on a credit card.
Yes. And that, I think that always starts back to, and again, there's a lot of, you know, things we disagree with him, but Dave Ramsey is great when it comes to at least budgeting. And I think if you have a debt problem, you realistically, that just showcases you have a budget problem, right? Is that you have not done a great job of planning and saying, hey, what is my income versus expenses versus anticipated expenses? I think everybody falls into that trap of, well, I didn't anticipate this, so therefore credit card comes out. Sometimes that trip that you want to go on really bad, or that concert, or those gifts, those start to add up. That again is a budget problem.
Yeah. And if you have gotten yourself into credit card debt because of emergencies or a layoff or something along those lines where income was interrupted or there was an accident, okay, let's work on getting out of that.
Sure.
Otherwise, there's a huge difference between needs and wants.
That's exactly right.
Like, don't ever put your needs on a credit card. Don't ever put your wants on a credit card.
Yeah, Albert Einstein,
because it's a vicious cycle.
It is, and that's where I was just going to go there, Dean. Is that Albert Einstein has this beautiful saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's those, you know, compounding interest is wonderful for those that understand it, right, and those that don't pay it, right. Is that you're exactly right? Is you want interest adding to your account, adding to your net worth. When you borrow money, not only are you not saving that money that goes to somebody else, but that other person is collecting that interest that you should be getting.
That's right.
Yeah, if you have this high interest debt, that's going to be number one. Is first, you know, we always go back to it, start with a budget. And it's really just an income plan, is how much are you bringing in versus what are expenses and anticipated expenses. That's the underlying problem. And then second, like you said, eliminate top priority is eliminate that high interest debt.
Now, this is interesting, Chris. There's a study, according to Schroeder's, it's a 2026 U.S. retirement survey. What it says is that Americans participating in workplace retirement plans, 401ks, 403bs, et cetera, think that they're going to need about $1.2 million to retire comfortably. But it's interesting that on the same survey, 33% of these people say that their credit card debt is actually higher than their retirement savings.
That's terrifying.
How do you get out of that?
like you said, it's a vicious cycle because it compounds, right?
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about the beginning of the show, is that if you are making the minimum payment on that, I think the math on it is you don't get out of that debt for decades. Is that really the idea has got to be you have to eliminate it. And the first thing you have to understand is, where's the money going out to and how much do you have coming in? Again, all of this, the good news in all this is, while it's terrifying, it's really just a math problem.
Yeah, this is why I say just don't do debt. Don't do credit card debt, right? Now, look, we've done a program here before, probably more than once, on good debt versus bad debt, right? And there can be good debt, right? When interest rates are extremely low, you getting a 0 interest rate loan on a car, that's fine. That's good debt. Or even a 1.2 or a 2% loan on a car, that's good debt.
Yeah.
Right. And the 4% mortgages, which you can't get today, or the 3.5% mortgages, today I think we're closer to 6.
Yeah.
And I would have to actually do the calculations for an individual in their position to say, hey, is the mortgage a good idea? Or if you've got the cash, should you just pay that off? And it depends on where the money's at.
Certainly. Yeah. No, and it really, but again, it comes back to it's a math problem. It's all solvable, but if you don't address it, it gets worse, right? Is that the math is not on your side the longer you delay something like this. So if you are approaching age 50 and you feel like you're behind, or you feel like you're drowning in debt, or you feel like you can't get ahead, it's worth sitting down with somebody and figuring out, hey, where is my money going out? What do I have coming in? And restructuring it. And you're operating it no different than, Dean, you've been a business owner. It's the same thing you do from a business standpoint. The business just happens to be your household.
Exactly. Now, the next thing I think, Chris, another milestone here is you've got to have a robust emergency fund. So if we can go back and say, hey, set a milestone for creating good savings, I would almost say that instead of milestone 3 being the robust savings, we should say that an emergency fund, that should probably be the foundation. Get that emergency fund set up, because if you got that emergency fund set up, it's going to allow you to feel more confident saving into the 401k or 403b or whatever retirement plan it is. And if you got that emergency fund set up, you're less likely to have to put something on a credit card. And so if we can just kind of maybe change the order in which we want to talk about those things and get that emergency fund established, get your savings there, don't go into debt. If you do have it, get rid of it. And then we get to start talking about the real planning.
Exactly.
Okay. Yep. So those things that we just talked about, most people don't need to come to a certified financial plan for those. That's basically setting the foundation to be able to create something, to create the type of wealth that then it makes sense to come to a certified financial planner for help. And one of the first things you're going to do there is you want to create a comprehensive investment strategy. It's no longer, once you've accumulated a reasonable amount of wealth, Chris, it's no longer about just, I just kind of don't look at it. I put it in the index and I let it go and I look at it at the end of the year. It's going to be a long time before I ever need it. Man, if you're approaching 50, the end is in sight.
Right.
And risk at that point in your investment strategy, it needs to be, you need to pay attention to it.
You do. And I find, Dean, is that it can seem daunting. It can seem overwhelming, right? Is that we talk about some of these concepts, and for those listening, if it feels painful to get started, just reach out. Is because we find that the pain of getting that started actually isn't as bad, as I've been told in a client meeting before, is coming to us, hey, when I reached out and I was going to get help, is I felt like it was going to feel like the dentist, truly, and then you sit down and you're like, this isn't that bad. Is that it's I think finances, for some reason in this country, a lot of people feel embarrassed about their situation. They feel like it's much worse than it is. And for some cases, if we're looking at you and you're listening to this and your credit card debt is higher than your retirement, we are talking to you, that is dire. But for the rest of us, the problems usually aren't as bad as you think. Reach out and get help on some of these things like we're talking about to improve your plan.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about asset allocation, Chris. And when we think about investing, we have to think about it from the standpoint of risk and understanding that when we're investing, risk is ever present. Okay. Risk is present even in your FDIC insured accounts. And you might say, well, Dean, they're FDIC insured. Well, I'm talking about interest rate risk, and I'm talking about inflation risk, because you had a really long period of time from around 2008 to 2022 where we were essentially in a zero interest rate environment, right? And so if you had a lot of money in FDIC insured accounts, you weren't getting paid a lot. And even though inflation wasn't horrible, it was still higher than what people were getting on those accounts. So your purchasing power is actually declining every year. So when I say risk is ever present, it is ever present in every single thing that you do with your money. So the first thing you have to do is think about investing from a risk perspective. All right, what do I need my money to do? How much money do I need to earn based on how much I have already accumulated and based on how much I can save in order to be able to reach my objectives? Okay. And you should be doing that, and you should be reviewing that at least twice a year, right? And don't think that you just set that allocation and you leave it alone. Rebalancing needs to occur.
That's exactly right. Half of risk is understanding risk. Once you understand your risk, then you can start to build the allocation that addresses your goals, but also avoids some of those risks.
100%.
It always should be. Is 50? I've found, Dean, it's always just an interesting age that retirement. It's on the horizon. It feels, if you're 50 and you're even 10 years feels out of reach, you're coming to the grips that, hey, retirement is something I should be thinking about, but yet you still feel young. But mortality is something that is, aches and pains start to get there. You're like, okay, I'm not gonna be as young as I was forever. And you're kind of playing catch up, right? Is that you almost, to your point, is like, hey, I've got 10 to 15 good earning years left, and it feels like at that point it's not enough. That's when I think it's important to reevaluate this list and say, am I on track, or is intervention needed?
We're taking a quick break from our 5 milestones to talk about your next steps.
There can be several uncertainties surrounding retirement. That's why Modern Wealth Management created a tool to help you visualize your feelings around your own retirement plan and put a number on each area.
Get your Modern Confidence Score today. Visit yourconfidencescore.com. Visit modernwealthkc.com. Or if you'd like to speak with a member of our team, visit modwm.com. That's modwm.com. Modern Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor. Now let's get back to the show. Yeah. So once you're doing this, Chris, let's assume that we've created the comprehensive investment strategy. Now what we need to do is we need to develop a clear retirement income strategy, because it's not just about accumulating money. At some point in time, you're going to reach a point in your life where you're done working for your money, and now it's time for your money to go to work for you.
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you have to almost, when you're building this retirement income strategy, you have to begin with the end in mind. You have to step into the future and put yourself at 60 or put yourself at 65, whatever age it is, and then say, okay, what do I need to live on? What is it that I need in order to do the things that I want to do? And you got to have some meaningful discussions around this, right? And this is where I think kind of the bonus comes in here, Chris, and that is the tax diversification. Okay, yep. So let me just paint a picture for our audience.
Yeah.
You're meeting with somebody for the first time. They're 55 years old. They see the possibility of wanting to retire in 5 to 10 years. And they come in and say, Chris, this is all we have. These are all the things that we've saved. We've got the 401ks, we've got some IRAs, we've got some Roth, we've got some brokerage account. We're able to save a decent amount of money, but we don't really know where we should be saving to. So you're going to build that plan, looking at all the resources, and then the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to our team of CPAs, right? And why would you bring a CPA into this discussion?
Yeah, it's important, Dean, is that because it's not, what we find is similar to risk being ever present, is taxes are ever present. And it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. And so to your point is that where you save and where you make money, we want to make sure we're doing that tax efficiently. So we want to make sure, as our point earlier, is if we're going for growth, or if we're appreciating our assets, or if we're spending if we plan to spend and retire, we want to make sure we understand, similar to our investments with the risk, what are the tax implications?
Yes.
What are the tax implications of a brokerage account if I put it in and grow it? What are the tax implications of an IRA or a 401k, and likewise with a Roth IRA and a Roth 401ks? How do these taxes work? Then you set the chessboard, then you set the investment allocation.
And the CPA is going to look at all that from the lens of a tax expert, right? They're going to say, okay, there's the resources. This is where you should be saving. Now, they're going to help you create that income plan to say, okay, if we know you're going to start spending in X number of years, let's position these accounts this way from a tax perspective, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to control the taxes, and then you, along with the investment management team, are going to control the investment side of it, asset allocation. So your tax allocation, to me, is as important, and in some cases even more important than your asset allocation.
I would agree. As Corey and I were in here a couple of weeks ago, recording for a tax show, and it was that fundamental premise is that, hey, what are you currently doing, and what do you want your future to look like? And then let the CPA go to work and say, hey, here's how we're going to restructure it to where whatever you're existing doing and what you want to do in the future already, let's just make it more tax efficient.
The goal of that process with a forward-looking tax plan, again, we're not talking about filing a tax return.
Right.
We're talking about creating a forward-looking tax strategy. The goal of that is to help you pay as little tax as possible, not just in a given year, but over your lifetime.
That's it.
Right? Most tax-efficient plan that you can make and pay as little tax as possible over your lifetime.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Dean. And so much of this is interwoven. I sit down with clients and people reaching out and they say, I just want a simple plan. This doesn't need to be complex. Well, that's true, but some of the tax code is inherently complex, right? It's so interwoven that as you get further and further along, we're not saying it needs to be complex for the sake of being complex, but because it's all working together, it inherently has some complexities.
Absolutely. All right. We have a little video here we're going to share. So those of you that are on YouTube with us, great. Those of you that are not, and you're either listening to us on radio or your favorite podcast app, just listen in. But we're gonna look at this video that says 3 problems with retiring early.
I have a friend who is very interested in retiring early. So I ask him, have you thought about how you're going to deal with the
early retirement gap?
When you retire early, you create a financial gap between then and when you're eligible for all those government programs that everyone loves. And there are a few things that early retirees need to carefully navigate. Number 1, you're no longer building wealth. You flip the switch and now you need to turn your savings into a monthly paycheck. Number 2, you're no longer adding to your Social Security earnings history because you aren't earning anymore. You could start drawing it when you turn 62, but you may want to wait a little longer to get more lifetime benefits. And finally, number 3, and this is a big one, you're on your own for health insurance because Medicare doesn't kick in until age 65. So I tell my friend that it's not impossible to overcome the
early retirement gap.
But before I tell him how much he needs to retire, he also needs to make some plans for how to bridge that gap.
Guy makes some great points, I think, Chris, and I want to talk a little bit about that gap, because the health insurance piece is huge, and we have a lot of people. I would say there's a lot of people watching us or listening to us that say, I can't retire early because I don't want to pay $30,000 a year for health insurance for myself and my spouse.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to wait until I'm 65 and I can get on Medicare.
Even if they can afford it. Some make that choice based on principle. They say, hey, I'm just not going to. Yeah.
But again, could you afford it? That's a question, right? And it's a huge deal. Mm-hmm. It is a huge deal because that is a major expense. And that's $30,000 after taxes, Chris. So that means you have had to get that $30,000. But in order to get 30, if you retired early, where are you going to get the money from, right? Now, again, if you retire pre-59 and a half, accessing IRA money, accessing 401k money, and those two things, you can suffer a 10% penalty on taking money out of there if it's not done correctly. There are rules and ways to get around that, such as IRS Code Section 72T or withdrawals coming out of a 401k plan if you separate service after the age of 55. So there's ways to access that money, but you got to be really conscious of that. This comes back to the CPA, the tax piece of it.
Yeah, no, it does. And I thought the video was good. Is he put it back on the client to say there's some ownership in the planning of the client too. Is that as a CFP, certified financial planner, is that our job is to bring ideas to you, the client, that maybe you haven't looked at it, or some strategies to overcome this. But at some level too, is it is on the client to look introspective and say, hey, what is it that I want to do? And what does this want to look like? So you're exactly right, Dean, is there's a lot of planning that goes involved if somebody's going to retire early or retirement period. A lot of that is knowing what is at stake and what to plan around. And then some of it's going to be, hey, this has to be a decision that I need to make of what my retirement's going to look like.
I liked how he tied in Social Security there, because when we were talking about earlier building a retirement income strategy, well, Social Security is going to be a large part of that retirement income strategy. And when you take Social Security and when your spouse takes Social Security, there's going to be a lot that comes into play there that will impact the long-term success or potential failure of your retirement as well. So Social Security shouldn't be one of those things that is, you think, well, I'm going to get it as soon as I can.
Sure.
That may not be the right answer.
That's exactly right.
It might be the right answer, but it may not.
Answer. Yeah, no, there's a lot of times where that is the right answer. But I think where you're alluding to, which is the thing that we've said all along, whether it comes to when to retire, healthcare, Social Security, is all circumstantial. It's all personalized. That plan needs to be for you. And that's why we open the show talking about there's a lot of information on finance across the board. A lot of it is not applicable to a certain situation for a client. That's why it's important to reach out and say, okay, what strategies work for me and what I'm trying to accomplish?
Yeah, and that personalized plan should be, I think, we're talking about milestones before 50, but I think 50 is kind of a magical moment where it's time to seek out help.
Sure.
Right? You really are in the later stages of planning for that retirement, and it's time to start making a real plan and not just thinking, well, I'm in the accumulation phase and I'm just maxing out my 401k and I'm putting as much money as I can into a brokerage account or whatever it is. It's time to create a real plan.
You're exactly right, Dean. And we've talked about this before about the 5 and 10 year window, is that the number, I always try to take a survey with clients coming on board and, what's your biggest regret, right? And it's, a lot of times it's, I wish I would have invested in NVIDIA or Bitcoin 10 years ago, or, Yahoo in 2000.
Wish I woulda, coulda, woulda, shoulda,
Exactly. But the answer is always, I wish I would have started this sooner. Yeah. I wish I would have looked at this chessboard sooner. I wish I would have understood what the planning aspects and what investing is and educating myself and getting help sooner. That's why I mentioned it feels there's such an embarrassment around finances for any unknown reason. And it is really just, hey, you just got to start, just reach out and get help, and then understand where the moving parts are, and then have somebody walk you through what are the different strategies to alleviate that.
And here's the thing that I think is beautiful of what we've done, Chris, is we've created what we call the modern confidence score.
Yeah.
All right. So there's 5 areas that you need to be confident in: your investments, your taxes, your insurance, your risk management, and then the creation of your overall plan. The belief that we have is that you can truly enjoy life now if you have confidence that all of those things are being taken care of and that you're doing the right thing in all of those areas. So you can go to our website, yourconfidencescore.com, and get your confidence score. It's 5 quick questions, and you're just going to rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 on how confident you are in these areas. That then helps us understand, where is it that we need to begin? What are the areas that you feel the least confident in? And we can start helping. But our goal is, on a scale of 1 to 5, to get people at a 4 or a 5 in all of those areas, so that they really have the confidence to go, okay, now I know exactly where I'm at. I know what I'm doing. I can have fun today. I can do the stuff I want to do.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, Dean. And the thing that I love about it is it's in the client's own words. How
Right.
do you feel about it? It's not some advisor telling him you should feel a 5.
No,
well,
it's
that's
not.
Yeah, that's you should feel confident about your plan. Well, that's great, but I still don't. And there's a reason for that. And so somebody needs to be validated in their feelings and understand. Hey, maybe there's a disconnect. You mentioned before is maybe there's a disconnect in how we're the messaging is getting received or being
Right.
told, and you just want to understand and meet the client where they're at. That's what I love about the confidence score. Is this person gets to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm still missing it, maybe on investments.
That happened to you, Chris.
It did.
It
Yeah.
happened to you when you were working with a client, and you've been doing tax planning with our
That's it.
lead CPA, and they scored themselves at what, a 3 on taxes?
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, how can that be? We've been having these, and they're like, well, I don't understand what you're saying, right?
But it was so beautiful is that you take a step back and you say, oh, we're missing the big picture. It's like, okay, we're doing it on a year to year, but missing the big picture. Light bulb goes off, giant light bulb moment for us and the client and Corey, and how we're structuring the meetings and making sure that point gets across. And it's been monumental.
Because they should have felt at a 5, right?
Sure.
Because you were doing all the work.
Exactly.
There was a communication gap.
Yeah, there was. And that's all it is that, and sometimes, as the advisor, you always want to believe that you create an environment that the client, if there's an issue, it's going to come up, but maybe sometimes they don't even know if there's an issue. So I love the confidence score that it says, hey, I still have questions here. Great, let's spend time there.
And here's the beautiful thing is, if you go out and do the confidence score, again, it's yourconfidencescore.com. You go out and do that, and whatever you score yourself, it is what it is. The great part is then having one of the CFPs at Modern Wealth validate
Yes.
that
Yes.
score, right?
Yes.
And we've seen it. We've seen false positives.
Yes.
We've seen people that are overly confident, and we're going, whoa, hey, hold on. This is the reality here. And they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I was missing that, right?
Yeah.
Or a false negative where they don't feel confident, but then like, man, you should feel great about this. Here's the reality. And they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. So go to yourconfidencescore.com. I was telling you that because it is something that is special, and it's different.
It's different, and there's value in it regardless of where you're at in the planning stages, whether you're age 50 and you're figuring it out for the first time and need help, or you're 65 and you're like, hey, I'm a DIYer and I know exactly what I'm doing. Is that all across the board? It's like you said, it's either looking for help or validation.
Yeah.
Either one, there's value in constantly looking at your situation and saying, am I on the right track or can I improve?
100%. A little bit of a commentary here, ending with the question.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting, and I'd love to share it with our audience here. Starts off by saying, seems like a blessed life, but it's just Tuesday. I'm 70 years old, and I retired 3 years ago after working since I was 11 years old. I've had some truly hard, sweaty, and dangerous jobs. I was also lucky to spend my last 25 years sitting at a desk. I never minded working, probably due to my Midwest upbringing and expectations that come with growing up in a lower middle-class family. My working life was mostly in factories, and I spent my days with like-minded people who made the weeks and months and years fly by. I think today was the first time I acknowledged that my working years are behind me. I still have chores, of course, maintenance on my house, fixing, building things for my kids. I'm also a designated chauffeur, taking grandchildren to their activities, but really that's about it. I was grilling some brats and hamburgers at 1 o'clock this afternoon, and it hit me that I worked my entire life, and now I'm grilling on a Tuesday afternoon. It's not even a holiday. I know it's a simple thing, but it was hard for me to get my mind around it. Is it a flaw in my brain, or does everyone take this long to come to terms with the life change of retirement? It's not a flaw.
It's not a flaw at all. Yeah. No.
It is not a flaw. I'll never forget 1989. I helped my first client retire. He made a comment to me at the time I didn't understand. He said, I'm nervous. And I'm like, how can you possibly be nervous? I mean, we've went over the numbers and you're going to be fine. He goes, oh no, I'm not nervous about the numbers. He goes, I don't know who I am.
Sure.
People rely on me every single day right now. who am I going to be when I don't have people counting on me every single day? And I was like, wow, okay, that's something.
Yeah.
And it took him 3 years before I finally came back and we were sitting down at one of his reviews, and he says, Dean, he said, if I'd have known what it was going to be like, I'd have retired earlier.
Yeah.
And so it is a huge shift, because your identity is who you are is tied in many cases to your job.
It is, and it's that purpose, that drive, that kind of that motivational pull that's pulling you towards something. Getting up every day, showering, getting ready, and that feeling of significance and that purpose. And then, like you said, it's a Tuesday, you know, and it feels like a Saturday, you know, and it's not even a holiday. Is that we see this more often in men for whatever reason. Women are engineered to transition through, and that's not to say some women don't struggle, they do, but transition and retirement a lot easier, more social than men in their 50s and 60s. But it is a hurdle, and it is something where you really do look at yourself in the mirror and say, what do I want these years to look like? As you and I did a podcast a few weeks ago on the 8,000 days, is that if you're not planning for those 8,000 days and you're just reacting, you're missing the boat a little bit.
Yeah. I look, there's a lot of milestones. There's a lot of things that people need to be doing. I think one way to get started is what we were talking about a little bit ago. Get your confidence score.
Get your start there.
Yourconfidencescore.com. Start a conversation with one of our certified financial planners. Let us help you create that plan so that you can actually enjoy life today with definite confidence in the future. Chris, I appreciate you joining me here on America's Wealth Management Show, as always. And everybody, until next time, stay healthy and stay safe.
The views expressed represent the opinion of Modern Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The information provided is for educational and illustrative purposes only and does not constitute individualized investment, tax, or legal advice. Actual results may vary, and investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Modern Wealth Management does not accept any liability for the use of the information discussed. Please consult with a qualified financial, legal, or tax professional prior to taking any action.